Well, at this time of year, if you're not playing, your focus just goes in another direction. It goes immediately to recruiting first. We've had a great week of camps. It's kind of I get asked a lot about why we have camps during this time of year. We have them last week and this week. They say, why would you have that going on during regionals and super regionals? And it's really a neat situation we have in that for the last couple of years, or 2 out of the last 3 years, we've had campers watch us prepare for super regionals. So that's been a neat thing for us in the past. But we're focused in on recruiting, we're focusing on camps. And you really don't have a lot of time. A lot of people ask me about the teams in the World Series, and I've done several radio stuff for Omaha and things of that nature. But my focus isn't on the 8 teams in Omaha. It's on the group of 30 or 40 guys who are 2015, 16s, and 17s. We're focused on in the recruiting process. So that's where we're at. Our kids who are playing summer ball right now are off to a great start. We keep close tabs on those guys. We have a couple of guys who are battling some medical stuff that we're working through right now, so we're focused in on that. And our staff is pretty scattered just around the country, trying to find the right guys for the right fit for our program.
Can you go through the medical stuff?
Yeah, sure. Humphreys is having a little bit of minor surgery to displace a nerve. It was explained to me it's a lot like Rout's surgery from a couple of years ago. So he's going to be fine. It's going to be, I'm hearing it's going to be 4 or 5 weeks, and he's going to be able to get back out and play. Jacob Robson had a similar type of nerve displacement surgery. The way it's described to me, they're just moving the ulnar nerve to, make them more comfortable when they're throwing. So he's doing well, and he's going to be playing baseball here in the next week or 2. So, outside of those 2 guys, I think we're pretty healthy, and I think our guys are playing pretty well in the summer. I was following on Twitter. Collins gets to the Cape as a freshman and immediately has some impact. Certainly Heck has done well. And, there's Garner has, I think he had 3 home runs in 3 games. So, our kids are doing well, and they all know that there's a mission this summer that's got to get better and to make our team better.
Can you update the medicals like Young and all the other guys who were hurt this past season?
Yeah, I think Young is progressing nicely. I've been told by our medical people that he's ahead of schedule. Will Cox's surgery was a little different than the other ones, just from the standpoint of he had a little bit more repair he had to do to his tendon, so not tendon, his ligament.
Shelley.
And I think Shelley's way ahead of schedule. I think he's already throwing a baseball. So we're excited about all those guys coming back.
And the guys that got drafted, I know they're no longer in your program, but are you proud of them? What does it mean to see them get to pursue their dreams? Yeah,
Lindgren's the first pick by the New York Yankees. I mean, what an incredible. It's amazing. You don't want to get nostalgic. But, I remember seeing him on film for the very first time about 4 years ago, and I saw one breaking ball from Jacob Lindgren, and Butch and I just looked at each other and said, we got to get that guy. That's something we needed to have in our program, was a legitimate swing and miss breaking ball. And to see he and Holder, those are 2 guys who committed to us, gosh, it was 4.5 years ago, almost in the same time. Maybe even within the same 2-week time period, those 2 guys committed to us, and you're talking about kind of changing or altering our program. And that's what we're doing right now. We're getting commitments from kids who we think can change our program. We have a saying in the recruiting process: we want to add to the top. You want to add to the top. You don't want to add to the bottom, of your talent pool in your program. And certainly those 2 kids made a huge difference. By the way, the Greek word nostalgia, within that word, the root of it is pain. So when you're looking back at these things, there's a little bit of pain. You lose those 2 guys, that's a painful experience. But, we feel good about moving forward. we had no idea the impact those two guys would have on our program at that moment. And right now, we don't have any idea, you know, who the next two are going to be, but we know that we're going to have others, you know, who are going to fall into that category.
How do you guys go about evaluating areas of need that you foresee in the future as you guys move into the off-season?
Well, I think it's important to note, you know, our sport is so different than the big times, than sports that get so much coverage, right? Like, we're literally getting commitments for kids right now who will not step on this campus for 3 years. And when you're recruiting at the highest level, that's how it has to be. And I feel like we're at a point in this program to where we're making really good decisions about sophomores in high school, or juniors who are in high schools. In some cases, but rarely, you know, ninth graders who are going to be 10th graders, you know. And you have to do that. And, you know, I felt like in the beginning we're a little bit behind, but I think at this point in time we're in a very good position from a recruiting standpoint. And I think people know and trust where we're going from here. And I think that, you know, the kids that we have coming in next semester are a very nice mix of some junior college kids who we think can step and help immediately. And I think, you know, it doesn't matter how talented the freshman is, there is a gestation period. There's a period of time where they have to get used to the speed of the game and everything else. Especially when you consider the catching position. You know, if you start looking around that field of 8 in Omaha, you start looking around at the team, boy, it's a rare occasion when there is a true freshman who's catching that team. It's usually that guy who's a fourth-year guy. You know, we've been very fortunate for the last 2 years. We have had really experienced guys who are, you know, behind the plate for us. And now, you know, I believe we have one of the most talented freshmen in the entire country. What's crazy about Gavin Collins is I ask every one of our freshmen the same question when we have our exit meeting. You know, exit meetings are crazy. You know, exit meetings, every coach in America has exit meetings, but they're really kind of a thing in the past because you have this meeting and you're talking to this kid before they go out and play, but because of, you know, your phone, you're talking to them all the time anyway. So it used to be this deal to where there's this separation thing. Well, you don't have any separation for your players now because of, you know, things that are available to you. But I asked Gavin Collins, I said specifically, knowing what you know now, what would you tell Gavin Collins coming in as a freshman to help him out? And he immediately said to slow things down and to, you know, every one of our arms are different, and your first responsibility is to lock in and learn those arms. In high school, you don't have to do that because you don't have so many different weapons, you know, who can really beat you up behind the plate. So I think Gavin has come a long way. Certainly, I think Cody Walker is somebody in a second year as a junior college player who's going to make a huge jump for us. I think that is the key to our whole ball club, is the jump at the catching position next year. That was a concern for me going in, not because of our talent. We might be more talented there than we've been in a long time. But just moving forward, you know, having those guys with some experience, I think, is huge going into next year.
You talked about summer ball, but how big is it for guys like a Gavin Collins or a Daniel Garner, for coming into next year? Just how big do you think summer ball is for those guys?
It's huge. You know, Britton's in the Cape. You know, we have several guys in the Cape. We have guys scattered all the way from California to the East Coast. I think we have 22 guys playing summer baseball right now. I think it's huge. You know, it's amazing. A good friend of mine who played college baseball and actually played professional league baseball and even played in the big leagues. You know, he made a comment to me. He said, you know, all this travel ball stuff in high school, you know, these kids from communities that go out and play here and there, why don't they just stay together in their area with their high school team? And I said to that guy, you know, hey, when you were in college and you went off and played in Alaska, or you went off and played in Iowa, or you went off and played in the Cape Cod League, how much did that help you as a player? He goes, oh my God, it was huge. And I said, well, why wouldn't it be the same for anybody going through the same process? It's not just a baseball experience. It's getting out of your comfort zone. It's meeting kids from all over the country. It's playing for a new set of coaches. All those kids and all their experience, they come back and they make our program better. And You know, I'll never forget sitting down with Pat McMahon. He was the guy who placed all of us when I played here. And Pat just said, here's where you're going, and you ain't coming home. And he said that to the same guys. You know, because you get to Alaska, or you get to Cape, you know, you played, 25, 30 games in the fall, you played 60-something games in the spring, and you get to that 40-game mark in the summer, and a lot of kids are like, man, I just want to go home and rest, but you got to grind through it, and that was the message for all of our players. You know, that's something I really took from Pat, because it's not just, hey, did you hit 300? It's not just, how did you pitch? How did you defend? It's, hey, this whole new experience, and I've grinded through the whole thing. I got through the end, and I'm going to bring a whole lot back to Mississippi State.
Did you try new foods?
Yeah, no question. You know, there's probably not a lot of fried catfish in the Cape Cod. Yeah, it's all new.
What's the conversations like with a guy like Dale, who was selected later on in the draft as a coach? And I'm sure it's kind of an individual, case-by-case basis, but you've had a lot of success getting those guys on campus.
Well, here's what's on the surface. What's on the surface is, you say Dale Burdick's a 40th rounder. He's not really a 40th rounder because so many of our kids in that class coming in were called, and they're called the day ahead, and they play the semantics game of what will it take. Now, they can't specifically negotiate, but it's a semantics game of what will it take for you to sign. And I'm really proud of this group because they turned down a lot of opportunities in the first 10 rounds. So the top 10 rounds isn't the top 10 rounds of talent. It's the top 10 rounds of people who will take that money in that round and go play professional baseball. I think what you're seeing, the biggest difference in the draft now and in years past, third rounders, fifth rounders, eighth rounders, ninth rounders, 10th rounders, they didn't sign. Now clubs can't afford to not sign them, so they're going to do so much homework and make sure the person they select in those top 10 rounds is going to sign. So I think the Dale Burdicks of the world, who command a pretty heavy price tag coming out of high school, they are going to slip, and they're not going to be as highly drafted because, you know, they're willing to invest a lot in themselves, and they have a high price tag, and they should. Because giving up this experience should and does, it should cost some organization a tremendous amount of money.
How have you adjusted your recruiting for the low seam baseball that's coming in next year?
Well, I think we do have a lot of young kids who have power, who don't fit into the, runner, defender type of mold. The Ingram kid who's off to a good start in the summer from Alabama, we think he's a redshirt guy who could fit into that mold. Certainly Garner fits into that mold a little bit. Humphreys fits into that mold. If we're going to get an extra 15 to 20 feet, which still, remains to be seen. Is that actually going to happen? Don't know. But that's what everybody's saying. As soon as we get, those 200 dozen baseballs and we start hitting them every single day, we'll see what a difference it makes. But in our ballpark, we still put a premium on being able to defend and cover the ballpark. We need to be a more successful offensive team, there's no doubt about it, but I don't want to trade what we're doing defensively and on the mound to be able to hit 20 more home runs, because that's not going to help us in wins and losses. So do I want more doubles? Do I want more home runs? Do I want more runs? Yes. I think if you ask every coach in the Southeastern Conference, maybe with the exception of Kentucky, they're probably going to tell you the same thing. And how we're all going to adapt to this new ball, I think after you play 25 games in the fall with it, you're a little bit trapped, because I think it's easy to say, hey, how come you didn't use that ball in the spring and get your kids used to it? Well, because now all of a sudden your best guy has a blister because he's going from low seam to high seam, low seam to high seam. So you're not going to run that risk. From an offensive standpoint, why are you going to add 15 feet or 20 feet, whatever it's going to end up being to the guy, and then put him right back in the low seam and have that same ball and not leave the ball? So it didn't make any sense. There's not a period of time that you're going to be able to adjust to it except this fall. So we'll see.
Don't they use